Sir Henri Charles Wilfrid Laurier, GCMG, PC, KC known as Wilfrid Laurier, was the 7th Prime Minister of Canada, in office from July 11, 1896 to October 6, 1911. Canada's first francophone Prime Minister, Laurier is often considered one of the country's greatest statesmen. He is well known for his policies of conciliation, expanding Confederation, and compromise between French and English Canada. His vision for Canada was a land of individual liberty and decentralized federalism. He also argued for an English-French partnership in Canada. "I have had before me as a pillar of fire," he said, "a policy of true Canadianism, of moderation, of reconciliation." He passionately defended individual liberty. "Canada is free and freedom is its nationality, and nothing will prevent me from continuing my task of preserving at all cost our civil liberty." Laurier was also well regarded for his efforts to establish Canada as an autonomous country within the British Empire, and he supported the continuation of the empire if it was based on absolute liberty, political and commercial. Laurier is the holder of a number of records. He is the fourth longest-serving Prime Minister of Canada, behind William Lyon Mackenzie King, John A. Macdonald, and Pierre Trudeau. A 2011 Maclean's historical ranking of the Prime Ministers placed Laurier first. Laurier also holds the record for the most consecutive federal elections won, and his 15-year tenure remains the longest unbroken term of office among prime ministers. In addition, his nearly 45 years of service in the House of Commons is an all-time record for that House. Finally, at 31 years, 8 months, Laurier was the longest-serving leader of a major Canadian political party, surpassing King by over 2 years. Laurier's portrait is displayed on the Canadian $5 bill. Early life. The second child of Carolus Laurier and Marcel Martineau, Wilfrid Laurier was born in St. Lin, Canada East on November 20, 1841. Laurier was the 7th generation of his family in Canada. He was a 6th-generation Canadian. His ancestor from a section Wa-Cotaino, dit Champ Laurier came to Canada from St. Claude, France. He grew up in a family where politics was a staple of talk and debate. His father, an educated man having liberal ideas, enjoyed a certain degree of prestige about town. In addition to being a farmer and surveyor, he also occupied such sought-after positions as mayor, justice of the peace, militia lieutenant and school board member. At the age of 11, Wilfrid left home to study in New Glasgow, a neighbouring village largely inhabited by immigrants from Scotland. Over the next 2 years, he had the opportunity of familiarising himself with the mentality, language and culture of British people. Laurier attended the College of L'Assomption and graduated in law from McGill University. He was elected to the Legislative Assembly of Quebec in the 1871 Quebec general election in Drummond-Arthabaska, but resigned on January 19, 1874 to enter federal politics in the riding of Quebec East. He was first elected to the Canadian House of Commons in the 1874 election, serving briefly in the cabinet of Prime Minister Alexander Mackenzie as Minister of Inland Revenue. Leadership. Chosen as leader of the Federal Liberal Party in 1887, he gradually built up his party's strength through his personal following both in Quebec and elsewhere in Canada. He led the Liberal Party to victory in the 1896 election, and contested 5 other federal elections. He remained Prime Minister until the defeat of the Liberal Party by the Conservative Party in the 1911 election. Quebec stronghold By 1909, Laurier had been able to build the Liberal Party a base in Quebec, which had remained a conservative stronghold for decades due to the province's social conservatism and to the influence of the Roman Catholic Church, which distrusted the Liberals' anti-clericalism. The growing alienation of French Canadians from the Conservative Party due to its links with anti-French, anti-Catholic Orangemen in English Canada aided the Liberal Party. These factors, combined with the collapse of the Conservative Party of Quebec, gave Laurier an opportunity to build a stronghold in French Canada and among Catholics across Canada. Because Laurier believed in the separation of church and state, Roman Catholic bishops in Quebec repeatedly warned their parishioners not to vote for him. Journalist and author, Laurier Lapierre, wrote in his 1996 biography of Laurier, children were made to kneel and beg God that their parents not be damned should they have the temerity to vote for the Liberal candidate. When electors asked directly whom they should vote for, the KG priests contented themselves with informing them that Le ciel est bleu, l'enfer est rouge heaven is blue, hell is red. Some of the tension at the time stemmed from the encyclical, Via Nos, of 1906, promulgated by Pope Pius X, which had condemned the strict church-state separation in force in the contemporary secular France of Prime Minister, a Père Combes. However, Laurier had complimented Pope Pius during a diplomatic meeting and maintained rather good personal relations with him. Prime Minister Laurier led Canada during a period of rapid growth, industrialization and immigration. His long career straddles a period of major political and economic change. As Prime Minister he was instrumental in ushering Canada into the 20th century and in gaining greater autonomy from Britain for his country. A list of his ministers is available at the parliamentary website, and is known as the 8th Canadian Ministry. One of Laurier's first acts as Prime Minister was to implement a solution to the Manitoba schools question, which had helped to bring down the Conservative government of Charles Tupper earlier in 1896. The Manitoba legislature had passed a law eliminating public funding for Catholic schooling. The Catholic minority asked the federal government for support, and eventually the Conservatives proposed remedial legislation to override Manitoba's legislation. Laurier opposed the remedial legislation on the basis of provincial rights, and succeeded in blocking its passage by Parliament. Once elected, Laurier proposed a compromise stating that Catholics in Manitoba could have a Catholic education if there were enough students to warrant it, on a school-by-school basis. This was seen by many as the best possible solution in the circumstances, making both the French and English equally satisfied. Laurier called his effort to lessen the tinder in this issue sunny ways. In 1899, the United Kingdom expected military support from Canada, as part of the British Empire, in the Second Boer War. Laurier was caught between demands for support for military action from English Canada, and a strong opposition from French Canada which saw the Boer War as an English war and to some degree appreciated the similar places that Boers and French Canadians held in the British Empire. Henri Bourassa was an especially vocal opponent. Laurier eventually decided to send a volunteer force, rather than the militia expected by Britain, but Bourassa continued to oppose any form of military involvement. In 1905, Laurier oversaw Saskatchewan and Alberta's entry into Confederation, the last two provinces to be created out of the Northwest Territories. This followed the enactment of the Yukon Territory Act by the Laurier government in 1898, separating the Yukon from the Northwest Territories. Laurier presided over the Quebec Bridge disaster, in which 75 workers were killed, on August 29, 1907. On July 29, 1910, while in Saskatoon to attend the opening of the University of Saskatchewan, he bought a newspaper from a young John Diefenbaker, a future Conservative Prime Minister. The young Diefenbaker, recognizing the Prime Minister, shared his ideas for the country and amused him. He inquired about the young man's business and expressed the hope that he would be a great man someday. The boy ended the conversation by saying, "Well, Mr. Prime Minister, I can't waste any more time on you. I must get back to work." Naval Bill The naval competition between the United Kingdom and the German Empire escalated in the early years of the 20th century. The British asked Canada for more money and resources for ship construction, precipitating a heated political division in Canada. The British supporters wished to send as much as possible, whereas those against wished to send nothing. Aiming for compromise, Laurier advanced the Naval Service Bill of 1910 which created the Royal Canadian Navy. The Navy would initially consist of 5 cruisers and 6 destroyers. In times of crisis, it could be made subordinate to the Royal Navy proper. The idea was lauded at the Imperial Conference on Defence in London, but it proved unpopular across the political spectrum in Canada, especially in Quebec as ex-Liberal Henri Bourassa organised an anti-Laurier force. Reciprocity and defeat In 1911, another controversy arose regarding Laurier's support of trade reciprocity with the United States. His long-serving Minister of Finance, William Stevens Fielding, reached an agreement allowing for free trade of natural products. This had the strong support of agricultural interests, but it alienated many businessmen who formed a significant part of the Liberals' support base. The Conservatives denounced the deal and played on long-standing fears that reciprocity could eventually lead to the American annexation of Canada. Contending with an unruly House of Commons, including vocal disapproval from Liberal MP Clifford Sifton, Laurier called an election to settle the issue of reciprocity. The Conservatives were victorious and Robert-led Borden succeeded Laurier as Prime Minister. Opposition and War. Laurier led the opposition during World War I. He led the filibuster to the Conservatives' own naval bill which would have sent contributions directly to the Royal Navy. The bill was later blocked by the Liberal-controlled Senate. He was an influential opponent of conscription, which led to the conscription crisis of 1917 and the formation of a union government, which Laurier refused to join for fear of having Quebec fall in the hands of nationalist Henri Bourassa. However, many Liberals, particularly in English Canada, joined Borden as Liberal Unionists and the Laurier Liberals were reduced to a mostly French-Canadian rump as a result of the 1917 election. However, Laurier's last policies and efforts had not been in vain. As a result of Laurier's opposition of conscription in 1917, Quebec and its French-Canadian voters voted overwhelmingly to support the Liberal Party starting in 1917. Despite one notable exception in 1958, the Liberal Party continued to dominate federal politics in Quebec until 1984. His protégé and successor as party leader William Lyon Mackenzie King led the Liberals to a landslide victory over the Conservatives in the 1921 election. Family. Wilfrid Laurier married Zoe Copyright Lafontaine in Montreal on May 13, 1868. She was the daughter of G.N.R. Lafontaine and his first wife, Zoe Copyright Tessier known as Zoe Copyright Lavin. Laurier's wife Zoe Copyright was born in Montreal and educated there at the School of the Bon Pasteur, and at the Convent of the Sisters of the Sacred Heart, St. Vincent de Paul. The couple lived at Art-Harbiscaville until they moved to Ottawa in 1896. She served as one of the vice presidents on the formation of the National Council of Women and was honorary vice president of the Victorian Order of Nurses. The couple had no children. Beginning in 1878 and for some 20 years while married to Zoe Copyright, Laurier had an ambiguous relationship with a married woman, a Pamela Marley Buff, with whom he fell in love. Where Zoe Copyright loved plants, animals and home life, she was not an intellectual. A Pamela Marley was, and relished literature and politics like Wilfrid, whose heart she won. Rumour had it he fathered a son, Armand Leven, with her, yet Zoe Copyright remained with him until his death. Laurier died of a stroke on February 17, 1919, while still in office as leader of the opposition. Though he had lost a bitter election 2 years earlier, he was loved nationwide for his warm smile, his sense of style, and his sunny ways. Some 50,000 people jammed the streets of Ottawa as his funeral procession marched to his final resting place at Notre Dame Cemetery. His remains would eventually be placed in a stone sarcophagus, adorned by sculptures of 9 mourning female figures, representing each of the provinces in the Union. His wife, Zoe Copyright Laurier, died in 1921 and was placed in the same tomb. National Historic Sites. Laurier is commemorated by 3 National Historic Sites of Canada. Sir Wilfrid Laurier National Historic Site is in his birthplace, St. Lin-Laurentides, a town 60 kilometers north of Montreal. Its establishment reflected an early desire to not only mark his birthplace, but to create a shrine to Laurier in the 1930s. Despite early doubts and later confirmation that the house designated as the birthplace was neither Laurier's nor on its original site, its development, and the building of a museum, satisfied the goal of honoring the man and reflecting his early life. His handsome brick residence in Ottawa is known as Laurier House National Historic Site, at the corner of what is now Laurier Avenue and Chapel Street. In their will, the Lauriers left the house to Prime Minister Mackenzie King, who in turn donated it to Canada upon his death. Both sites are administered by Parks Canada as part of the National Park System. The 1876 Italianate residence of the Lauriers during his years as a lawyer and Member of Parliament, in Victoriaville, Quebec, is designated Wilfrid Laurier House National Historic Site, and is a privately owned museum operated as the Laurier Museum. In November 2011, Wilfrid Laurier University located in Waterloo, Ontario unveiled a statue depicting a young, passionate Sir Wilfrid Laurier in his younger years sitting on a bench, thinking deeply about the future. Recognition. Laurier had titular honours including, the prenominal the Honourable, and the postnominal PC for life by virtue of being made a member of the Queen's Privy Council for Canada on October 8, 1877. His prenominal was upgraded to the Right Honourable, when he was made a member of the Imperial Privy Council of the United Kingdom. The prenominal Sir, and postnominal GCMG as a Knight Grand Cross of the Order of St. Michael and St. George. Sir Wilfrid Laurier Day is observed each year on November 20, his birth date. Laurier is depicted on several banknotes issued by the Bank of Canada. The $1,000 note in the 1935 series and 1937 series, the $5 note in the Scenes of Canada series, 1972 and 1979, Birds of Canada series, 1986, Journey series, 2002 and Frontiers series, 2013. Laurier has appeared on at least 3 postage stamps, issued in 1927 and 1973. Many sites and landmarks were named to honour Wilfrid Laurier. They include Mount Sir Wilfrid Laurier in British Columbia's Premier Range, Laurier Avenue, located in Milton, Ontario, Avenue Laurier, located in Shawinigan, Quebec, Laurier Boulevard, and Laurier Hill, located in Brockville, Ontario, Avenue Laurier, located in Montreal, Quebec, Boulevard Laurier, located in Quebec City, Quebec, Laurier Avenue, located in Ottawa, Ontario, Laurier Avenue, located in Deep River, Ontario, Laurier Drive, located in Saskatoon, SK, Laurier Street, located in North Bay, Ontario, Rue Laurier, located in Casselman, Ontario, the Laurier Heights neighbourhood, including Laurier Drive and Laurier Heights School, in Edmonton, Alberta, Laurier Drive, located in Saskatoon's Confederation Park neighbourhood, where the majority of the streets are named after former Canadian Prime Ministers, the Provincial Electoral District of Laurier-Dorion, the Federal Electoral District of Laurier-Sainte Marie. On November 1, 1973, Waterloo Lutheran University, one of Ontario's publicly funded universities, located in Waterloo, Ontario, was renamed Wilfrid Laurier University. The university has since added a campus in Brantford, Ontario, a Montreal metro station, Laurier, CCGS Sir Wilfrid Laurier, Chateau Laurier, a downtown Ottawa hotel of high reputation and a National Historic Site, Sir Wilfrid Laurier Public School in Markham, Ontario, Sir Wilfrid Laurier School Board, an English school board located in Quebec. The school board serves the Laval, Laurentides, Lanaudière regions in Quebec, Sir Wilfrid Laurier Secondary School in London, Ontario, Sir Wilfrid Laurier Secondary School in Ottawa, Ontario, Sir Wilfrid Laurier Collegiate Institute in Scarborough, Ontario. Laurier is also the personal hero of former Prime Minister Jean Craig. Copyright 10 who saw in Laurier's abilities at conciliation and at winning majority governments an ideal model to follow. Laurier was ranked number 3 of the Prime Ministers of Canada in the survey by Canadian historians included in Prime Ministers, ranking Canada's leaders by J. L. Granatstein and Norman Hilmer. Supreme Court appointments. Laurier chose the following jurists to be appointed as Justices of the Supreme Court of Canada by the Governor-General: Sir Louis Henry Davis, David Mills, Sir Henri Elsa Copyrighted Taschiro, John Douglas Armour, Wallace Nesbitt, Albert Clements Killam, John Iddington, James McLennan, Sir Charles Fitzpatrick, Sir Lyman Porduff, Francis Alexander Anglin, Louis-Philippe Brodeur. See also: List of Canadian Prime Ministers, 8th Canadian Ministry, Canadian Federal Election, 1896, Canadian Federal Election, 1900, Canadian Federal Election, 1904, Canadian Federal Election, 1908, Canadian Federal Election, 1911, List of Canadian Federal General Elections. References. Further reading External links: Wilfrid Laurier, a Euro-Parliament of Canada biography, Wilfrid Laurier on the platform. Collection of the principal speeches made in Parliament or before the people, since his entry into active politics in 1871. By Wilfrid Laurier at archive.org, Life and Letters of Sir Wilfrid Laurier Vol. 1 at archive.org, Life and Letters of Sir Wilfrid Laurier Vol. 2 at archive.org, article on Sir Wilfrid Laurier from the Canadian Encyclopedia, photograph, Wilfrid Laurier, 1890, McCord Museum, photograph, Sir Wilfrid Laurier, circa 1900, McCord Museum, photograph, Wilfrid Laurier, 1906, McCord Museum.